Greetings and welcome to another River Radio Sports Central podcast powered by our friends at Novacare Rehabilitation. Alongside Matt Varney from 103.5 ESPN, I am Darren Kinnard. And Matty V, we've talked about it. We are into May. That means the finish line is in sight.
Yep.
Next week, all the circus begins with the postseason. We have bass fishing sectionals. We have girls track and field sectionals. Girls soccer regionals start.
Yep.
And then the week after that, we get into baseball and softball. This week, the big news was the seedings and the pairings come out for 1A and 2A baseball and softball.
Yeah, and, you referenced, just how crazy it's about to get. Usually in the fall and the winter, it's a little bit more staggered, so we get a little bit more time to enjoy the postseason with each sport a little bit more. Right now, it's, like you said, you're off to the races here. And so, but yeah, the seeding was the big thing. The biggest thing that stuck out to me, of course, was the Carterville is a 1 seed, Pinckneyville is a 1 seed on the other side of the sectional, and then it was Anna Jonesboro being a 2 seed. We talked about that, and before we had full assignments and everything, we thought all three could be top 3 seeds in the same subsectional, but Pinckneyville lucks out in that. Very good team, but Carterville, without a doubt, on the softball side of things, is probably the favorite to come out of everything, just because they've been so dominant. I think last week we talked, it was it's been like 2 years or something since they've lost to a Southern Illinois team. Yeah, and we'll go through some of the pairings and matchups here in a bit, but yeah, that's an interesting. It really just shows you the especially in 2A, we talk about it in girls basketball, we talk about it in boys basketball. It is such a gauntlet in this region because it draws in enough of the teams from our north and west in the Metro East area, and then they all go into that same super sectional. And so you have the best of the best against the best coming from that side, and it makes it just it is survival to get out of this group of teams. Without a doubt. And I mean, when you look at specifically soccer, our region's starting to get to that level as well, but especially in the spring, it is the Deep South's time to shine a lot of the time in a lot of different sports. And so we're looking forward to hopefully some really deep postseason runs, but it's going to be kind of like how we talked about in basketball with that sectional of death of, a bunch of teams being in regionals that they shouldn't be matched up in. You're going to have something like that happen with softball and baseball specifically coming up in the next coming weeks of just like, this should not be a regional matchup, but it is because just that's how loaded it is here in the Deep South. And I know everybody's going to be shocked that my rant about seedings is coming up again. But before we get to that, I just want to go back to something you said about the staggered. That is so true. In the fall, you have volleyball and then football playoffs are on Fridays and Saturdays. And so there's not that mix. Cross country is on Saturdays too, but the times are situated where you can maybe get to multiple events. In winter, you've got wrestling and then basketball and it's staggered then girls, boys. And then here in the spring, I mean, my goodness, you've got everything going at the same time. And here in a couple weeks, that first week of June, you have the 1A and 2A baseball and softball state the same weekend. It is the same weekend as the bass fishing state finals, which have moved from Carlisle to Shelbyville. And that's also then for 3A, 4A, that's the sectional finals week. You've got the track leading up to that and girls soccer, boys tennis. I mean, it is all in this 3 or 4 week span. And for the love of all that is good in sports, please stagger it. But I get it. They want it in by that second week of June to get it finished because, a lot of seniors, I was down in Vienna this morning and today's the seniors' last day. And so, when you get out of, kids being in school, it's harder and they don't want to get too far into the summer. And so there's certain complications. I get that. And the spring season always feels shortened anyway because of a lot of weather stuff. But my goodness, it is all lumped together. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say also. Just it feels like a mad dash once we get into the spring season of, it's March. We only have 2, maybe 2.5 months of the school year, and then state series might end up going, depending on which sport you're talking about, might go up into June. But a lot of these teams are seeing their season end a little bit quicker than, say, a basketball team or a football team or volleyball team, in that it just, like I said, it's a mad dash to get the season in, make sure it happens, and then the weather plays a role, as you mentioned. And then we get to postseason, and it's like, oh, yeah, that has to happen, huh? I guess we probably should start it. Maybe instead of the end of May, maybe we should start at the middle of May, and that's the right decision. But it's like, my goodness, this happened so fast.
Well, and I know in Iowa, at least it was the case. I don't know if they still do it or not. The baseball and softball seasons are in the summer, which I know that creates some issues with. Okay, well, how is there eligibility because of school and that type of thing? But I mean, it makes sense, but then you'd have a lot of travel ball issues and people out with their pitchforks and that. But I just think it's interesting. And Iowa's in a situation where if they don't play in the fall, then spring.
Yeah.
I mean, we think about how bad it is in northern Illinois. Well, it's just as bad in Iowa and in some places worse, where you're not going to be able to play in the spring, or you're going to get like 3 weeks. And so the only way that they're able to get a full season in is to play it in the summer. And I think there's some merit to that. And I know there are those out there like, shut up, Kinnard, that, you're getting out of control here. But I personally, and it's purely selfish motivations, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, well, and on the international stage as well, I know that when you look at year-round school, which a lot of the international stage does, I know a lot of kids that are kind of in their quote-unquote senior year for that final stage. A lot of them end up skipping that season also because they're like, I got to prepare for exams and get ready for my secondary education. And so a lot of them, any way possible that these kids can get that last season and not have to worry about, I got to prepare for this. And they get to enjoy it a little bit more. They get to be kids for a little bit longer. That's always a good thing.
So looking at what's ahead this week, we up first, we have the girls track and field sectionals in 1A. Weber, Chester, and Newton are the three sites that will have area and regional teams. The Weber sectional is on Thursday. Chester actually goes on, they're Thursday as well. And looking at Newton, they are the first ones to go. They are Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday for the girls track sectionals in 1A. And then in 2A, again, I know it's exciting to watch somebody play on the computer, but pulling those up, Mascoutah has the majority of our immediate area teams, and that is on Thursday the 15th. I think there's one other one. I guess that's the only one in 2A, as they may send some of our outside teams. I see Centralia and Salem. They have to go to Monticello, which is a nice little trek to be going, and then coming back for running events start at 5 in a track sectional. That means you're not leaving Monticello until 8, 9 o'clock, and then having to come back to Salem and Centralia. That's quite a trek there.
It is, but usually in those type of events, usually you have one or two teams that are kind of a little out of place, but they had to put them somewhere, and that's where they end up going. But yeah, hopefully it's not a situation where those kids are getting back, and then the next day they have exams or something like that, and they can hopefully kind of rest a little bit more. But yeah, when you do something on a Thursday, usually you have school on Friday.
Yeah, and we mentioned the fact that the bass fishing, multiple layers this year with regionals and sectionals. Those regionals are all on May 15th, again, same day. Yep. Thank you. But we're talking Crab Orchard Lake is hosting, Wren Lake is hosting, Kincaid Lake is hosting, as well as Forbes State Park back in my home neck of the woods, and Newton as well. So there's multiple sites. Those regionals are all on the 15th. And then you get girls soccer that gets underway in 1A. And, you're talking about there's only a couple of area teams in 1A. And those are headed to Murfreesboro. The Red Devils are the top seed in their own regional. They will take on Mount Carmel. That's Friday the 16th. And Massac County plays Jabot on Saturday with that championship game the following Tuesday. Meanwhile, DeCoin, who just picked up the first win in program history,
that's awesome.
Yesterday, which was kudos to the Lady Indians for finally getting that. What a when you're starting a program from scratch, it's so difficult.
It is.
And then their reward is they got to go play top seeded Columbia at Columbia, and that's you celebrate that victory.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, and that's generally how it's going to go when your first program win comes on the eve, basically. Right. It is what it is. Like you said, soak it in, enjoy it, and then kind of go in with the mentality that every coach wants you to. Anyways, is postseason, brand new season, everybody's 0-0, and see if you can ride that wave a little bit more.
And then the other two area teams in 1A, and they're both going to Columbia. It's Pinckneyville and Vienna-Goreville. And Pinckneyville has reached a program record with 10 wins this season. So the Lady Panthers, they are the 4th seed in that regional, and then those matches will be on Monday the 19th, so that's even a little further. But then they turn around and play the championship game on that Tuesday. So those are the three that are coming up immediately next week, and that'll keep us busy. And then we start looking ahead to baseball and softball, and this is the last year. We talked on our previous podcast about the changes coming to make it all 4 classes in softball are going to be the same weekend, and then all 4 in baseball are going to be the same weekend. This is the last year where they have them split up 1A, 2A, and then 3A, 4A in the week. So we've got the 1A, 2A seedings and pairings. And again, it's interesting to me. It will be difficult when all 4 classes are in the same thing, just because the weather could end up being a factor.
It could, very well so. And so we'll see what plans they come up for that. But I think right now, they're just saying this is what we do anyways. And so we'll see how they when that time comes, what they come up with. But, it definitely will be a factor without a doubt.
We're looking at the 1A baseball we'll start with, and these are the regionals that feed into the Cobden sectional, and they have almost all of our immediate area teams. Goreville, a number 1 seed at the Black Cats, are hosting the regional, and then Gallatin County is the next seed. So if the seeds were to hold, you're looking at, of course, this is a 4-5 matchup where Gallatin County's playing Crab. The winner will get Goreville will face the winner of Shawnee and Cobden. And, Goreville has had some, a bit of struggles, but again, it's Goreville.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they always seem to find a way, and you like the way they're set up here is in the regional.
Yeah, and, as you referenced, a little bit of a dip for Goreville, but again, they're Goreville, but also those dips can sometimes it ends up being kind of a precursor for, okay, maybe it won't be as great of a season as, you come to expect from Goreville, but it could also be a precursor for they've gone through their challenges, and so they're prepared for a postseason that you're going to have to take your lumps. And so it could go one of 2 different ways, and, it's Goreville, like you said. So, the Black Cats are always ready, and you always see them usually as kind of a sectional participant one way or another.
The other part of that subsectional goes into the Alvarado Regional, and Steelville is the top seed there. They are the 2 in the subsectional. Galatia Thompsonville, who just won the GEC regular season championship, they are the 3 seed, and so they will face another GEC squad, NCOE, in the semis. Mm-hmm. Steelville gets the winner of Grayville and Alvarado in their semifinals. And again, I just think that 1A is just really wide open because there's a couple teams that have some tremendous talent, and again, so much of the baseball postseason is most everybody's got an ace. Yeah. And certainly there are some guys that are maybe better than others, but what's your number 2 pitcher? What's your number 3 pitcher? That depth of pitching is what's going to dictate to whether you get to next week or not.
Right. And, specifically about the 1A softball, it's just Galatia Thompsonville has been really good this year. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to go out there and see them. Just go look at their scores. Some of their scores have just been very eye-popping. They're putting up 19, sometime back-to-back games, and just it is a lot of run scoring. They're a different kind of team, but they're one that I think you said they're 3 seed, right?
Yes, and this is baseball. So,
but they're just as good as well.
Right, and so that's a very interesting regional to me. And then Waltonville, the Spartans, the WSV Spartans, they are the number 1 seed there. Trico is the 4 seed. Trico's been a team that's been up and down, and again, they've been really, really good, and sometimes, and then there's sometimes that you see the scores, you're like, oh, okay, didn't see that necessarily coming. But in that regional, Trico will play Wayne City in the semis. Waltonville, Cesar gets the winner of Weber and Woodlawn. So it's basically a lot of Midland Trail teams in that one. And, of course, with WSV, I mean, the discussion starts with Mr. Mincer on the mound. And anybody in that regional knows that it's going to be tough sledding.
It will, without a doubt. WSV is going in, without a doubt, as the favorite. They've earned it, and Mr. Menser, as you mentioned, is just a fantastic athlete that is going to be at the front the entire time. But talking about Trico also, just the kind of a head scratching kind of lows, but also these big highs for them. That just reads as a team that kind of is younger, has a little bit of experience, knows what they're doing, but some of their biggest players are undergrad type guys, and so. That just reads to, there's a lot of youth, which, again, could go really well, could go really bad for you.
Well, in baseball and in softball, it just strikes me that it reminds me of the NHL playoffs. Mm-hmm. A hot goalie can, it doesn't matter how good offensively the other team is, a good pitcher can shut down teams. Right. And so you can see some upsets. And then we talked about in previous podcasts about that decision, when do we throw our number 1? Do we throw our number 1 in the semis, or, do you run the risk and, wait and pitch him in the championship game? And softball doesn't necessarily have that because no pitch counts necessarily. But with the baseball, there's certainly an amount of strategy, and you don't want to be stuck. You sit your top guy and you don't even get there. You can't be in that situation, I don't think.
And that's generally also when you look at just the pros, that's how they generally take it. Okay, you got to play a game 163. We're throwing out the ace, kind of. Right. It's how they generally go with it. You want to give yourself the best chance every single time out, so you're generally going to see the ace out there. But at the same time, if you have full trust in your number 2 to go ahead and take care of business, and your offense is humming along, you might be able to get away with that. But generally, you want to put that number 1 out there and just give yourself the best chance, and then say, okay, number 2, your job is now the regional final, if you will.
Well, and it also can be everybody, all arms on deck to try to get out of that championship. On the other side is the Altamont sectional regionals at Pawnee, Dietrich, South Central, and Oka Valley. Top seeds over there, North Clay, Clay City, and Stu Strauss, Windsor. And again, the winner of the Altamont sectional will face the winner of the Cobden sectional at the SIU Super, and that'll be Monday, June 2nd. That is a 4:00 game at Southern. And again, traditionally, those super sectionals have been on Memorial Day, but this year, the way the calendar falls, they are now that first Monday in June, and so that is the way 1A stacks up. And then when you look at 2A, and again, all of these will be feeding into the SIU Super Sectional. You've got DuQuoin hosting a sectional and T-Town hosting a sectional, and the regionals that go into DuQuoin are at Carterville, Massac, Fairfield, and Sparta. And so when you look at, I was interested to see who they were going to send where, and they send Nashville, the top seed, to Carterville, and Nashville will face the winner of Benton and Murfreesboro, and and then it's DuQuoin and Carterville in the 4-5 game, and so. These seedings were, we haven't got rant-worthy yet. These were pretty basic. But again, it's interesting to me. You could see the champions of the two sides of the river meeting in a regional semifinal here.
You potentially could, without a doubt. I mean, Murfreesboro tonight is looking to win things outright in the Ohio division, which would be the first time in 20 years, I think it is. Got to beat Heron tonight to win it outright. Otherwise, they'll have a share, which is still pretty nice. But they want that conference crown, obviously. But, you could potentially see that potentially happen right there, which would be interesting. But that's sometimes just how it falls. You don't generally see a conference champion be a 7 seed, but again, that's just how it's kind of fallen for Murfreesboro this year.
They got things going when it came time for the conference.
And I mean, the thing is, if they do beat Heron Friday night and then beat Benton and see Nashville, you're humming along. You've got all the momentum on you, and you've got we did just win conference outright for the first. They might be feeling like, hey, something's going here. And the thing that I know about Murfreesboro, as being the guy that does Murfreesboro sports, is just the fact that baseball team has a lot of heart, and they've kind of been building it for a few years now. No, they don't want to be the 7 seed this year, but they do feel like they could be potentially a 4 seed. It's just, I think that kind of 4 to 7, maybe even 8 in that specific in 2A in that subsectional kind of feels like the distance isn't that far. The gap isn't that far for those guys.
Well, and I think that so far in this season, what we've seen is Nashville's had just a tremendous regular season, and then you could probably pick out 2 through 7, 8, 9, and whatever order came out would, I don't think you could really have any arguments.
Yeah, it's just the gap is so narrow on that thing that you just end up being the 7 seed, but the 7 could very well go ahead and make a run, as could the 4, the 3, whatever you want to put it at. Just, they all are going to have opportunities here.
The other part of the subsectional goes to Sparta, ZRC, the 2 seed there, and they will face the winner of Chester and Sparta. And then Redbud, the 3 seed, will get Pinckneyville. Redbud won the Cahokia, Illinois. Yeah. And so, Pinckneyville just beat Murfreesboro. So, again, you really, you could make a lot of cases for any of those combinations. And so those are the Sparta regional pairings. Massac County is the number 1 seed on the other side of the subsectional, and they host the regional, so they are going to face the winner of El Dorado at West Frankfort. And here we go. Here comes the rant.
Oh, boy.
El Dorado at West Frankfort is an 11 at a 10. Okay, a 10 should never, ever, ever host.
No, never.
And we're just gonna get into it. Is I've said this many times. Is I think that you need to put the top 8 and protect them. Right now, the way it's set up is you just do the top 4, like 1 and 4 go together, 2 and 3 go together, and then they just fill in with the rest of the teams. Well, if you're just going to fill in with the rest of the teams, don't seed 9 through wherever and put them where it is appropriate. Again, and this is nothing against West Frankfort, but as a 10, you should not host. And and then you look at it. You've got Anna Jonesboro, who's an 8, and so they are into the semifinals against Vienna as a 4. And again, where this problem comes in is it's not just a seeding problem. Mm-hmm. The 2 regionals in this subsectional, one's in Fairfield and one's in Metropolis. Yeah. And so, there's a certain amount of teams that are going to go to the Fairfield. Like you're not going to send Mount Carmel to Metropolis,
right?
Although they do send Massac County to Mount Carmel for girls golf, but I digress. And so as a result, on the other side in the Fairfield regional, you have Fairfield, who's a 7 at 6 Mount Carmel. So Fairfield, who's a 7, has to go on the road.
Yep.
In a play-in game or in a quarterfinal game, and then you've got Carmi as a 5 who has to play a quarterfinal game. And the thing is that look, the state is an odd, with the locations and all this and that, but it's not consistent.
No,
it's not like all 5s have to do this,
right?
Or all 7s are going to end up having to be on the. No, that's not the way it happens everywhere else,
right?
And I can't stand it, and my bracket brain can't digest it. Won't digest it.
Well, and just to play devil's advocate real quickly, I think the only reasoning that goes for it is, those schools may not get an opportunity to host otherwise, but, there's a reason why these schools put bids in for regionals. And honestly, you're depriving those schools of what they put bids in for.
absolutely. And look, I mean, you're Massac County High School or you're Fairfield. You can't help where you're located,
right?
And if you want to host, and I get that,
yeah, I do.
And then the argument comes in, and just like we talked about in basketball, at what point are we going to seed the whole sectional,
right?
And then because here's the deal. I mean, these games are played at 4:30. When I look at the schedule, they're played at 4:30 across the board. And quite frankly, I mean, you don't hesitate to send Annnnnd Jonesboro to Mascoutah for track.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we worried about sending Fairfield or Mount Carmel to Massac County, and you didn't have a problem sending Massac County to Mount Carmel in other sports. So. And again, I know this is a familiar rant, but you're just going to have to humor me. But it defies logic.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Like I said, that you can take that devil's advocate route, but when you get down to it, how I view it is, your school won the bid. You get to host all the games for that specific round. And then you move on. That's about all I can say about it.
And again, we talked about girls soccer earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Pinckneyville and Vienna-Goreville are playing in Columbia.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know of a good way to get from Vienna to Columbia.
I don't know either.
I just don't. And, they may have to, pack a lunch or be prepared to hit a truck stop on the way home for, a snack on the way home. So, and again, so that's the way it goes. Also, the Fairfield Regional, Johnston City is the top seed. They are the 2 overall in the subsectional. Harrisburg is the 3. Johnston City will play the winner of Fairfield Mount Carmel. Harrisburg gets Hamilton County, Carmi-White County. And again, last year, Johnston City upset Harrisburg in the regional.
Yeah.
So to see them back together is interesting. And, and again, Harrisburg has struggled uncharacteristically a bit, but you've seen them make the improvement as the season's gone on. And again, look, nobody wants to see Jay Thompson, in the postseason. It's just,
no.
We talked about it in basketball with Joe Hossman, and
that's right.
It's the same type thing, and there's a reason why that dude's won 800 million games. I mean, they will find a way to be peaking later in the season.
Yes, they will, and I mean that's the whole point of we didn't do well at the start of the season, but as you said, as the season wore on, you saw them getting better, improving, and I don't know if they really peaked at the right time, but it's a team that has got a lot of experience on it, obviously, coming from the bench, but they've got some pretty good seniors as well that are ready to go here on their final trek into the postseason. And as you referenced, they've got that sting still from last year, losing to Johnson City, that they've got all the motivation that they need and all the kind of pieces mentally that they need that don't be surprised by the Bulldogs in the postseason.
And on the other side, the T-Town sectional regionals are at Bree Central, Roxana, Newton, and Paris. So again, you're talking about quite a span of locations. Bree Central and Roxana on the west side of the state. You got Newton and Paris on the other side. Top seeds. Greenville is the number 1 seed in the one subsectional. They are going to Bree Central. And on the other side, Effingham St. Anthony is the top seed, and they are going to the Paris Regional. Again, these teams, the winners of the DeCoin Sectional and the T-Town Sectional, will meet at the Carbondale 2A Super Sectional, and that is scheduled for 7 o'clock on Monday, June 2nd. And I will say this, the last time that we had a nighttime doubleheader at Southern, the 1A game went a bunch of innings.
Yeah.
And the 2A game didn't start until like 8-something. It was Harrisburg and Freeburg.
Yes.
And it was like, oh boy, it's going to be a long night. Yep. But again, they're going 4-7 for the SIU Super Sectionals there. Now this year, SIU is also hosting the softball supers as well. And our area teams in 1A are headed to the Trico Sectional. Regionals are at Century, Alvarado, Steelville, and Goreville. And then when you look at this, Goreville's the number 1 seed at their regional, and it's not been a traditional Goreville season. They have struggled at times, but that side, and this is where the arguments come of seeding the whole sectional,
right?
Because that side is significantly not as strong as the other side,
right? Without a doubt. And again, as we were talking about Goreville with baseball, same thing with softball. You go through your trials and tribulations. Sometimes they make you prepared for these moments, and sometimes it's more of a herald of, things may not be all hunky-dory come postseason time. But, yeah, you're completely right about, potentially seeding the whole thing.
Yeah, Goreville gets the winner of Cobden, Carrier Mills, Stonefort, which is a 7-6 matchup. Just makes me grind my teeth. And then the other semifinal is a GEC matchup, Hardin County and Pope County in the 4-5 game. At El Dorado, and it's... actually the El Dorado is on the other side of the subsectional. Mm-hmm. The other regional is at Century, and the host team is the top seed there. They will get the winner of Egyptian and Meridian. Again, a 10-9 game in the quarterfinals. Shawnee and Dongola Joppa, the other semifinal. So that is essentially an SEC tournament.
Sure is.
in the Century Regional. And so now you get to the other side, where Waltonville-Sessavalier is the number one seed at Steelville, and you only have 4 teams in that regional. So they're going to face the host Steelville in the semifinals. The other is Trico and Woodlawn. And so you end up with 4 quality teams that, had they been on the other side, probably get at worst, a 2 or a 3 seed.
We've seen this before, and it was on the hardwood in boys basketball season, but it is what it is. You deal with it, and they're all going to beat each other up and find out who comes out on top, basically.
And then the other one is at the El Dorado Regional, where Crab Orchard is the top seed. El Dorado is they are the 2 seed overall in the subsectional. Crab gets the winner of Gallatin County NCOE. And then it's El Dorado and Galatia-Thompsonville in the other semifinal. So you've got, again, another handful of teams that they're all on this side beating the daylights out of each other. Yeah. And, and the other side is, again, you got to win the games that are in front of you.
Right,
That's what it boils down to.
Exactly, and we can sit here and be like, man, Goreville got a great gift despite their kind of struggles this season. But when you come down to it, they got to still show up prepared and ready to go against everybody until they maybe run into one of those teams that they say, oh, this is a different level than what we've been facing potentially. If they show up and think that they're going to win, that's when the team that's on the other side is going to strike and when they're going to bring a quick end to the Black Cats postseason.
KZ Westfield, the other sectional that feeds into SIU. Regionals are at Windsor, Martinsville, Hudsonville, and at Wayne City. Edwards County is the top seed on the one side of the subsectional. They are the number 1 seed at Wayne City. They will get the winner of Sisney and Weber. Again, another 10-9 game. Grayville, Wayne City, 4 and a 6 in the other semifinals. The other number 1 seed going to Martinsville, that's KZ Westfield, who is, depending on the week, one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the ICA poll. And so, again, those winners will meet at SIU on Monday, June 2nd of those sectionals, and that is a 4:30 start. I didn't have enough pull to get the time staggered over at Southern. So baseball's at 4 and 7, and then softball's going to be at 4:30 and 7. But the 1A softball, you got the Trico sectional winner against the KZ Westfield sectional winner, and so and then when you get into 2A. The area teams are going to the Murfreesboro sectional. Regionals include Harrisburg, Redbud, Pinckneyville, and Benton. We talked about a little bit earlier, you mentioned about Carterville being the number 1 seed in that subsectional. They're going to Harrisburg and will play the winner of Vienna-Massac County, another 10-9 matchup. And so the other semifinal is Harrisburg and Carmi, a battle of Lady Bulldogs. And if seeds hold, you got Carterville and Harrisburg, which those two have already played in the conference, and that's been one of Carterville's closer games. I believe it was 3-0 maybe earlier in the year. And so again, anything can happen in the postseason, and it's at Harrisburg.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, as we referenced, Carterville, I think the past 2 seasons has not lost to a Southern Illinois team, but as the season has gone on, we have seen teams start to figure things out a little bit. Harrisburg and Pinckneyville, in recent memory, are the ones that have played Carterville to a 3-0 game each. So they got close, but they still weren't able to get on the board. But if Harrisburg or down the line potentially Pinckneyville gets on the board and they hold Carterville to 3 runs, you're looking at a game that's going to go down to the wire that anything could happen. But again, Cadence Phillips is just a superstar at this point on the mound or in the circle, I should say, for softball.
Thank you.
Yes. But the other side of it also is that they've got plenty of good young pitchers.
Right.
We haven't really checked in on it. Maybe you've heard something, but we had heard that potentially maybe Taryn Ford could be ready for postseason.
She's started. You've seen some. She's pitched some. She's been on a pitch count, and I think I saw one of the games recently. She went 4 innings. So
yeah,
I mean,
huge.
Again, another arm. And if you look back to last year, Carterville wins state. Their toughest games were here.
That's right.
In the regionals and sectionals. I mean, you think about that game against Carmi White County that went 13 innings.
Yeah.
And so maybe 14 if but again,
you could use that.
Those are those situations where it speaks to the volume and the depth of the teams in this area. That, man, if we get out of here, we feel okay, but that's a big if. Can we get out of here?
Well, and the other side of it also is just we talked about, throwing your number 1 out there no matter what. But, hey, if you know that you have a 1B potentially sitting in the pen that you can say, hey, you know what, Cadence, you've done great these first 5 innings. We're going to have you sit because we want you ready for the potential championship matchup in a few days. If you want to have her sit and you toss out one of the Ford sisters and say, go ahead and have some fun with it, that is a potential as well. But just like I said with Goreville, that Carterville has been so good now that and I know they don't have this mentality because you can see it when they play, but if they walk in and say, we got this one in the bag, that is when things will hit you. So, but these good teams know that, and they know they need to bring the right mentality to these games.
Well, and again, having seen the familiarity, you know what's coming.
Oh yeah.
And, the other regional is at Benton for this subsectional. AJ, the top seed. The Lady Wildcats will face the winner of Fairfield and Hamilton County. And then the other semifinal is a 3-5 matchup, Mount Carmel and the host Rangerettes. Mount Carmel's a team that, we don't necessarily see a ton of in playing in these, but they've had a great season. And again, that's, that could be a very enticing, an AJ Mount Carmel final on Friday at Benton. So, and I will say this, when it comes to the scheduling, thank you for scheduling the championship games on Friday. Baseball's generally on Saturday, so at least there's some stagger. So again, purely selfish motivation. I mean, I am not above being selfish. So,
well, and the one thing about Mount Carmel Benton also is that Benton's another one of those teams that kind of struggled at the beginning, as I recall it, but they have really started to come on here since maybe the middle of the season, after kind of those storms that kind of washed everything out. After that, they really started to come on. And so that game right there is really interesting because Mount Carmel, very solid all season long. Benton has been streaking throughout the second portion of the season. I'll be interested to see who comes out on top. That's a very good matchup. On the other side, Pinckneyville is the number 1 seed at the Pinckneyville Regional. And the Lady Panthers will get the winner of DuQuoin ZRC. The other semifinal, maybe one of the more attractive, and it's what you'd expect in a 4-5, West Frankfort, Johnston City. Yeah. And so that's a really good matchup. The winner likely to face Pinckneyville in the title game at Pinckneyville. So, I think that's certainly an interesting regional. And then when you go to Redbud, who just clinched the Cahokia, Illinois, is the top seed there. They will get the winner of Nashville and Murfreesboro. Chester and Sparta, the other semifinal there. Again, championship on Friday. All these will feed into the Murfreesboro sectional. The other side is the Vandalia sectional, where you have regionals at Columbia, Gillespie, Greenville, and Flora.
Newton is one of the number 1 seeds on that other side. They are at Flora. And then the other one is Columbia, who is the number 1 seed at its own regional. Again, those teams go to Vandalia. Winners go to Southern, and they say 6 o'clock here. But
No.
we all know that we are not going to play a super sectional game in all likelihood. Get the celebration, the plaque, all the pictures, and then be able to play the second game in 2 hours. That's not happening.
No, it's not. They can be hopeful, but that's not.
Right. That's a wish cast.
That's the placeholder time. They know very well that that's not to be expected.
And again, this is the last year that 1A, 2A, baseball and softball will be playing on the same weekend. Mm-hmm. The 3A, 4A, they're a week behind. Those seedings will come out next week, so we'll get an idea of who's going to go where for the bigger schools there. But this sets the table for what's ahead. The games don't start until it would be not next week. It's going to be the following week. So. It really just kind of sets it because we have we have some that are playing conference tournaments. We have conference regular season titles that are getting decided here as we steam down the lane to the end of the regular season.
Yeah, when you come down to it, for some teams, you have 2, 3, 4 games left, and some of them might be like, okay, that's decided, we're locked in. Maybe we take a little bit of a rest one way and. The coaches aren't saying this, but, you might have a 16 or 17-year-old that says, okay, well, we know that's in maybe I dial it back a little bit and prepare for the postseason. Some of these kids think that way. But on the other side of things, if the team comes together, they say, okay, now we know where we're at. Let's go ahead and gather some more steam. And then when the postseason comes, we're going full steam ahead.
Yeah, and it's the tremendous time of year, and the wild card is weather.
Yep.
And you just, it feels like at some point the rain will shut off and then we may not get another drop for, 6-8 weeks. Yeah. But until that point, it's been a factor. And then when the postseason, you hate to see games get backed up, and you don't ever want to get in the point where it ends up being a coin flip to decide, or they go by, I think they go by seeds. Mm-hmm. Either way, nobody wants to see that. You want to see it play out in the field and get a winner.
Always. You don't want, like you said, you don't want it to be something that just comes down to chance. You always want to compete for it. If you have an upset, you want it to be earned, and if you have something that where you win the game that you were supposed to win, you also want that earned, because now you're walking into something with, say you walk into a regional championship game, you're walking in with less experience than probably the team that you're playing against, so it's all about continuity and being able to get as many games in as possible. You don't want someone's season to end on a coin flip.
No, and looking at some of the records of some of our teams, mm-hmm. there are teams that have only played 12, 14 games so far, and that's a really light number, and so you wonder how that factors into the equation down the stretch.
I mean, it could either be a really good thing. I keep going good or a bad thing, but like a good thing in that, okay, everybody's rested up. Could also be a bad thing because you don't have that experience. Right. Some of your hitters may end up losing, just depending on how much of a stretch between games that you've had. If you only had 12 to 14 in the past 2 months, I mean, they could be kind of locked into a rhythm of, okay, I only play once every couple of days, and now all of a sudden you're playing once a day, basically. That rhythm gets all messed up. Specifically, baseball and softball, it's all about rhythm, and the postseason now, specifically because of the weather that we've had this year, some people's rhythm's about to get messed up.
Well, here's hoping it dries out, and and knowing our luck is just going to go straight to hot, and that's the way it's going to be.
It will be. The fourth state is here,
and this is why my wife says I'm pessimistic. So it's fair.
We just have come to expect certain things, and we know better than to be optimistic about the other side.
And my answer to her is, I'm not pessimistic. Yeah. I'm a realist.
Yeah. Well, all I can say here, as we wrap things up, is that, like I said, by the time that the state finals happen, it will have switched over to hot and muggy.
Guaranteed.
And I can tell you that because the Sika All-Star Game officially has been announced June 6th. That'll be that Friday. And it's going to be hot and muggy for that. It wouldn't be football without that.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. And again, just something else for that weekend. Yeah. So anyway, it is going to be a fun stretch run. Really looking forward to seeing who ends up at the top of the heap, so to speak. And we've got a lot of area teams that have a lot of opportunities in front of them, and that's going to be exciting. Well, that's going to do it for this River Radio Sports Central podcast, powered by our friends at Novacare Rehabilitation. For Matty V, I'm Darren Kinnard. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you again next week.